family businesses, young people are not always the one who want to innovate. What do you think about it?
Once upon a time, there was this guy and he planted a seed and he watered it and it grew into a tree that grew bigger and bigger and higher. People came around and the leaves dropped their seeds and they grew, and so pretty soon he had a nice little orchard. And he said to his son, "My son, this is our orchard. I'd like you to grow it further." And his son took this on because he could see what Daddy had done, and he planted more seeds, and he had some good ideas about how we might improve the way we can hold the trees up so they grow even taller. And so this happened, and then he climbed one day to the top of the tree and said, "Wow, I can see so much more out there." And he said to his son, "Son, come with me up the tree, look at all this we can do." So we have this wonderful growing orchard, which is now diversifying into different things. But one day, the next generation son comes and it's a dark forest. There's trees everywhere. He climbs up, but there's more things there. Where do I go? What do I do? And I've got all this responsibility. There's Daddy and his daddy and great. What do I do? Paralyzed.
I recognize that so much, John. And although it was not a family company, I had the same. When I started to work, I had loads of study and no experience. And you come there, and innovating is kind of breaking the rules. But you first must learn the rules before you can break them. So when I worked, I first learned the rules. And for 5-6 years, I didn't even want to touch everything because it was all so perfect by generations. I recognize this a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things there. First of all, why is there no daughter in your story would be my first question.
I knew that was coming.
I just want to ask you. But interesting enough, is in your story, is the son the firstborn son or the secondborn son?
I think he'll be the firstborn son, because he carries the responsibility.
And I think this is important because there is some stuff around how birth order affects the world, and essentially the firstborns feel like they own the world, and the secondborns want to change the world. And so you're talking about the maintenance of the what do we call the dynasty? Yes, and
the family business.
The family business. And so in the family business that I've worked with, that's part of this is 4th generation, 95 years old. It always has been the firstborn son, not the daughter, not the secondborn son, not the third one. Always the firstborn son who has ended up becoming the next generation CEO. And there's something about they have this kind of obligation about not messing with it too much. Is that the rules, Gijs, that you're saying?
That's exactly the rules. Now the point is, how do you get then this company innovating? And is this different from a corporation? Now you know corporation well.
So I find that for the younger generation and family businesses, they really are looking for new initiatives, looking to be inspired. And what I've found in the programs are that these young entrepreneurs who come from family business, they really do want to bring in their own ideas to the business and innovate. So it's important for the previous generation to encourage that and to support that, so that the younger generation can really launch new initiatives that may contribute value to their family business.
It was my dad's business, and then I came along.
And now it's gone.
It was my dad's business, and then I came along.
And now it's gone.
And now I'm gonna innovate. I got something feeling strong.
Better be good, boy.
And now my kids come along.
Oh my
And
God.
they think that I'm dumb.
Yeah, you're done.
Especially my daughter, 'cause she knows she's number one.
Oh yeah,
Real princess.
And it's changing the way that we do it here, because she knows that I have got a lot of fear, but we're done.
Daddy, you're done.
But there's a tension here, right?
Yeah.
There is a tension here. So I remember my experience of being a young man at 20, right? At 20, I distinctly remember knowing everything. Okay, like absolutely everything. Sadly, at 56 now, I'm suffering from some kind of dementia because I clearly don't know everything. I also remember that at 20, my father was an idiot, right? And remarkably, there's something in the water because he's so much smarter now. My theory about this is that there's a kind of moment where it goes from being, well, I'm kind of doing it my way versus now maybe there's a more of a, like perhaps a collaboration. John, have you seen this?
Yeah, and there's a pattern. I mean, and it's, as you said, it's a balance. On the one hand, if you come in as the nth part of the generation, so you've got fathers and grandfathers in the building, or grandmothers.
Gotcha.
You got me, yeah. But if you come in there, you have so many resources to work with. You have not only the tangible resources, you've got all that accumulated wisdom, what your father has. That's wonderful. It's also a straitjacket. What can I do? How can I make a change? And the interesting thing, and there's a kind of historical thing in this, in the old dynastic families, the first son went on to inherit the title. He'd become Lord John whatever. The second son, there was always sons I'm afraid, the second son would go into the army, would fight and make his way in a different battlefield. The third would go into the church. But there's this kind of, you have to go out unless you are the one in the centre.
And I've seen some daughters, by the way. I've seen some daughters in here at the business too.
I like to focus now on innovation, and that's it because there is a solution which is very important for family businesses, and that I don't call it I-innovation. Of me, I call it we-innovation. And we-innovation is especially important in family businesses.
Gijs, we-innovation sounds like something I need to get pills for.
It is sure. So well, you should get pills anyway. Okay, you should be on pills anyway. Now, we-innovation is extra important because there is a huge informal decision making in families, right? Sunday lunch at Nonna, right? 2:00. The whole family is there. There's the business taker. So everybody has to feel included. And the point is for the youngsters to have a process and make a process where they are included, not telling them what to do, but they have to give direction and they're in the process to freedom for the youngsters to be creative.
Do you think it is direction or do you think it's a sounding board?
Both, but without direction, a youngster goes everywhere. And
no, I think you're ageist now, Gijs.
Yeah, I would say these youngsters are probably very well educated. They've got the experience. They've grown up in the family business.
Of course.
But I think there's a pattern again, which you can see. I wrote a book about a German company from being a startup to being a global company, 35,000 people, classic family business. And what was fascinating was the roles that were played. Now, the startup entrepreneur, classic, saw some opportunities. They sold farming equipment, particularly for the carriages and the wagons. So things for holding the horses. So horseless carriages, the new motor car. This is the tail end of the 19th century. Ooh, there's an opportunity. You can see, and that's how the business grew, supplying accessories for the car industry. Okay. What did the next generation do? Well, they used the space that Dad had created and the resources to move into different markets, to grow geographically from being small Northwest Germany going out. What did the next one do? And there were the difficulties obviously of the war in between. The next one internationalized. So it's about finding space and then also giving the education, the resources, the responsibility, son or daughter, go out and help us find and exploit that space.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love the finding spaces.
space?
I love it.
That's
I love
a
it.
space.
You find spaces, and because you have to find a new space.
Yeah.
Like that's what innovation is about, and especially in family business.
Let me
And
ask you
within
though.
that
Let me
space,
ask you a
too.
question about that. Let me ask you a question about that though. I can imagine that at least for the founding entrepreneur in the dynasty, that maybe the required innovation is much more resource constrained. It's much more a necessity innovation play.
Enormously.
And when you're talking about finding space, I can imagine the way that you have to innovate in the second or the third direction, perhaps that changes. What do you think, Gijs? Do you think it would have to change? I mean, we can't, because you are the first founder is less constrained and more constrained in a different way.
We also talked about exploring and exploiting, right? So you got a generation explorers, and then the other generation exploits. But if you exploit, so there must be another exploring, and then another exploiting, and that might take 10, 50, 20, 30 years, right? So there are also a kind of an order. It has to do with, of course, the qualities of the youngsters in the organization, but also the phase where the firm is, I think. But there are always wide new spaces everywhere.
But I think that there's a responsibility then in the family system, if you like, to prepare that youngster for that role.
Yeah.
So the education, the understanding, and can't just go out and say, I bought this wonderful new thing, I'm going to plug it in here. It's not plug and play, it's got to fit an established family system.
Yeah.
So the youngster has to go out prepared, resourced, with a mission.
Yeah.
Not you must do
No,
that,
no.
but explore it and on our behalf bring it back so we can all grow.
Yeah.
So there's a preparation.
It remembers me, John,
Yeah,
that these
definitely.
white
I think that's
spaces
important.
should still fit the family values. They should be connected to the old family values, but even with old values, you find new spaces. But there has to be a connection, otherwise the old generation says, no. You know, not while I'm still here.